Welcome back for another video. It's the final video of 2024, so taking a quick moment to thank you for your support this year. Passing 200,000 subscribers, getting the Focal tattoo, winning the Football Content Awards, obviously launching the app and everything else as well. So it's been a great year and hopefully another great one in 2025. So let's get into it. Who are the best players to buy for Gameweek20? Let's break it down by position as always with some guidance from FPL review projections, and we'll start off with the keepers. So the next 5 game weeks now reaches us to Gameweek24, which is a possible location for Liverpool and Everton's postponement to drop in, with a 50% chance allocated to Gameweek24 here. So Alisson's moved well ahead for the next 5 projections, and he's in fact top for Gameweek20 as well, with Liverpool playing home to Man United. United have failed to score in the last 4 games that Bruno's missed, though he is back from suspension for the trip to Anfield. Man United have lost 6 games in December. That's the most they've ever lost in a single month since 1930, so it's a great time for Liverpool to face them, with Man United a club still in transition under new management. At the bottom of the table is Pickford here. He's ranked 8th this week among keepers. He's projected 17.9 over the next 5 with that possible double in mind, which ranks 4th best among all keepers overall. 7 clean sheets for Everton this season. Only Liverpool and Forest have got more. If you've got a third Liverpool spot, then I think for an extra 0.4 million, Alisson's worth it for Pickford. Although we're a good 5 or so game weeks away from the potential doubles, one thing to keep in mind is the assistant manager chip. If you've still got your triple captain chip, then it makes sense to use it on Salah that week. However, if you've used the triple captain already, then one logical approach is to use the assistant manager chip on slot in that double game week, which of course requires you to leave a third Liverpool spot open in your team. So if you add a third Liverpool player now, you're going to have to save it for another game week later, or commit to transferring one back out nearer the time. That's the sort of forward thinking and planning that will give you an edge over other managers. The other team that's been on an incredible run defensively recently is Newcastle, who are on 7 clean sheets themselves now, with 4 on the bounce. They're away to Spurs next, which means no Dubravka on the table. However, we're going to talk plenty about Newcastle in this video. They're really clicking at both ends of the pitch right now. So let's move on to the defenders, and this week Trent leads the table with 5.3 points, finally delivering on the promise last game with a goal, a clean sheet, a maximum bonus for a 15-pointer. Well played if you had him. We said on, I think it was last week's video, that a haul was coming soon. 240 minutes per expected goal of this season, which is better than Iwobi, Ahmad and Kulusevski. So when a player's putting up those kinds of numbers, plus the added chance of a clean sheet, they're just worth the money. And Saka's injury has made Trent more accessible than he otherwise would have been. The other point made on last week's video is that he's worth the 0.6 premium over Van Dijk really. He's played 2 fewer games due to injury, but he's 9 points ahead of him. However, top of all defenders and overall points is actually Aina with 89. What a season he's having. He's looking down on the likes of Trent, Gabriel and Vardy from top of the defender points leaderboard. He doesn't quite make the table here, but for 5.1 million and the 3rd best defence for expected goals conceded, he's good value, as is Milenkovic for 0.4 mil cheaper at 4.7 mil. Aston Villa will play home to Leicester next game week, which has got Konsa, Digne and Pau Torres all on the table this week. If you need a dirt cheap defender, then Konsa ticks the boxes for 4.4 mil. With Leicester, Everton, Arsenal, West Ham and Wolves in his next 5, you'd be happy enough starting him in all of those games bar the Arsenal game, and Villa are 7th best for expected goals conceded this season. There is another budget defender here though. Fulham have got a nice run of 3 games. It's Ipswich home, West Ham away and Leicester away. So Fulham's fullbacks, Castagna and Robinson make the table and they're both on 4.2 points. Castagna for 0.7 mil saving would be my pick despite Robinson's assist last match and more output this season, of course with way more minutes as well. Interestingly, Castagna is actually marginally ahead for the next 5 projections as well, so if you look in there, save your money and go Castagna. The only downside of Castagna is once Tete's back, he'll likely lose his spot, so you might only get 7 game weeks out of him, which is still plenty in fairness. That takes you all the way to mid to late February. So over the last 4 game weeks, Hall has got more points than any defender in the game with 40, an average of 10 per game. Only Isak and Salah have got more points among all positions, a double and triple his price. Not the ideal entry point away at Spurs, but he's probably the best set and forget starter. After Spurs, it's Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton and Fulham. He's got to be the best out of the budget defenders in the game right now, even if expectations will be low this week against Spurs. I mean, they're fighting for Champions League football right now, so he's got to be a better pick than Robinson, for a bit cheaper as well. If you go for Fulham, then it may as well be Castagna really. Spurs are still managing to score plenty, but they are conceding plenty, so there's always going to be a chance of Hall getting an assist if you pick him up this week. It's great to see him having a breakout season, by the way. Those that watched my content here before the season has started probably remember how much I rated Hall to have a good season, and I very reluctantly left him out of my Gameweek 1 team, which actually worked out okay given Newcastle's slow start, but they're absolutely firing right now. Surprisingly, the Arsenal defence doesn't make the table, which we've not seen for a while. They're still set and forget starters though. The Arsenal defenders are on 3.5 points roughly. Arsenal away to Brighton in Gameweek 20. If you've still got Vardy, then you definitely give him another week or two, off the back of a clean sheet last match, and they're home to West Ham next, who could be without Bowen as well. So let's move on to a midfielder discussion next. We're at the halfway mark of the season, and Salah's on 202 points, absolutely crazy, plus he's played 18 games rather than 19 like most teams. I'd love to see him keep pace, as he'd absolutely obliterate the all-time record if he keeps going. Last match was the 8th time that Salah's registered 1 goal 1 assist in a game this season. That's a new Premier League record for a season, we're literally halfway. He tops the table this week with 8 projected points against Man United, nearing 70% ownership now as well. As amazing as it is for us to watch him deliver so consistently, the rank gains are almost non-existent now because of his extremely high ownership. For example, in the top 100k last game week, he was 188% effective ownership, so even as your captain, the rank gain is marginal. So we've got to be smart with our other picks to make up those gains to climb the ranks in mini leagues elsewhere. Gordon is one player that I want to underline. He's only 13.7% owned, and he's returned for 4 games in a row. He's got a really juicy run of games coming for attackers: Spurs, Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton and Fulham, 3 of those home games. Isak, of course, another player who's only climbing in ownership, so the gains are lessening for his points, which makes Gordon a nice hedge on Newcastle's attack. If you go for the double up with Gordon, then whenever Newcastle score, Isak and Gordon are very likely to be involved. You might even get points from both if they're assisting each other. Spurs have fallen 1-0 behind in 15 Premier League home games in 2024, the most ever in a calendar year by any team. Honourable mention to Rodgers with a goal and assist last match, but very frustrating for owners, as he also picked up a 5th yellow card of the season, meaning he's suspended for the Leicester home game next, and therefore he's not on the table. It's Palmer who's second on the table this week on 6.3 points, and then Foden on 5.3. Brentford have got Southampton away before they have Man City and Liverpool, so Mbeumo's back on the table this week as well. He's actually the 3rd top scorer midfielder this season. He's on 110 points currently. There's a lot of solid midfielder picks that just miss out on making the table as well, which are worth a mention. Eze is actually tied with Gordon on 4.5 points, with Palace playing home to Chelsea. Chelsea in a bit of a rut right now, with consecutive defeats to Ipswich and Fulham. On last week's video, my view was Eze over Sarr, and well played if you did go for Eze for that 10-pointer. It's ultimately the set pieces, occasional corners and possible penalties that give him the edge. Both are great picks for the long term though. Semenyo and Cliver are also on 4.5 points for Everton home, and you certainly give them Gameweek 20, then you consider swapping out your Bournemouth attackers, Evan Nilsson included. After Gameweek 20 they've got Chelsea, Newcastle, Forest and Liverpool. I can't imagine there's loads of goals over that run. Iwobi's just behind them, he's on 4.3 points, however he's got really good fixtures coming. Starting with Ipswich home, great option for 5.9 mil if you're looking for a budget midfielder. So we saw Gakpo, Diaz and Jota all score last match, and that's ultimately the issue with them as picks. If you go for them, you're going to have to accept the massive risk of rotation or early substitutions. You might be better placed backing a player who are nailed for starts despite how well Liverpool are doing, the likes of Odegaard and Gordon around the same price. Moving on to the forwards then. So Haaland at last back on the points against Leicester, though it's not enough for 14.8 mil. You really want 2 returns on average to be satisfied for that price. He's got to be a hold again though, given it's West Ham home next. They're the 4th worst defence this season for expected goals conceded after the 3 promoted teams. Isak has now registered 50 Premier League goal involvements in 69 games. That's the 3rd fastest by a Newcastle player ever, behind Andrew Cole and Les Ferdinand. He's nearing on must-have in current form, combined with those upcoming fixtures, though we won't use the word essential, as I know some of you don't like that word. He is on 5.9 points this week, with Watkins just ahead of him. Watkins is an interesting one. He did really well last match after getting back in the 11 following Duran's suspension, and it is another 2 games that Duran's suspended for still, and it's Leicester home next as well. So after 2 games his minutes could be shaky again, but if he continues performing, there's no reason for Emery to bench him. 8.8 million is a bit of an awkward price, but it's an amazing fixture next. Honourable mention to Wood with a goal and an assist last match. He's only 4 points behind Haaland now at 45% of his price. Cunha and Isak, the other 2 forwards that have got more points. Speaking of Cunha then, the FA have now officially banned him for 2 matches for the incident after the Ipswich game. The next 2 matches in all competitions are Forest home and then Bristol City away in the FA Cup. So he'll only be suspended for Gameweek 20 in FPL, back for Gameweek 21, which is Newcastle away. He was subbed off at half-time against Spurs as well, and he was receiving treatment for some kind of injury, so there's potentially no impact to Wolves either way if he was going to miss out. Wood looks like the standout replacement at a similar price, or Watkins and Isak for slightly more. For even cheaper, Jimenez is on 4.3 projected points, with the home fixture to Ipswich next, back on the score sheet last match against Bournemouth as well. The only thing that he's really not reliable for is minutes. He gets taken off early every single match, and on the odd occasion not even a starter. If you've got Cunha, let us know in the comments who you're replacing him with, or if you're holding him even. Thanks for watching and Happy New Year. See you all soon for the next one.